Let me say that for me and for many of us, settlements are the be-all and end-all of this occupation, of the Israeli occupation of Palestinian lands since 1967, which is not to say that there aren't other problems. Jerusalem, borders, refugees, they are all important, they're all crucial. But it is the story of settlements which runs the whole engine of occupation. And I'm focusing very specifically on the fact that Obama said settlements must stop. Israeli politicians, the Israeli establishment, the whole Israeli populace became tense. The whole point was, what will we now do, and how will Netanyahu now respond to that? First, tiny, though gigantic point, is the number of settlers. If you read the Boston Globe, if you read the New York Times, if you read anybody, you will encounter the number 300,000. The settlers number almost 300,000 in the West Bank. But then there's East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem has over 200,000 Jews living in land which is not Israeli. Sorry, it was annexed by Israel a week after the Six-Day War in 1967. It was illegally annexed according to international law. But for that reason, Israel treats East Jerusalem and the Jerusalem environs as part of Israel. Israel does not consider it occupied territory, and therefore it doesn't count those over 200,000 people. But they are settlers according to international law, just like the 300,000 settlers in the rest of the West Bank. The second point, in this discussion with Obama, Israelis and Americans, Jewish Americans, make a distinction between authorized and unauthorized settlements. Now, this is a very complicated issue going back to supposed arrangements with President Bush, where Ariel Sharon said, okay, we will make sure to dismantle unauthorized settlements. But what are authorized settlements? Well, authorized settlements are settlements that Israel has authorized in building. But again, according to international law, all of these settlements are illegal. Anything beyond that proverbial green line, in other words, anything beyond the borders of 1967, June 4th, 1967, is occupied land. Now again, think of the way the discourse has gone. With President Bush, of course. With President Obama, we're a little less sure of what he's saying. But when he says the settlements must stop, and he doesn't tell us which settlements, he then leaves the door open to Netanyahu to say, well, of course, we are going to dismantle unauthorized settlements. But that is not what the issue is about. The issue is about that whole illegal settlement program. We have to understand that unless deeper things are said, unless the facts are taken into consideration, 500,000 settlers there, all of them illegal, most of them considered by Israel authorized, unless that is recognized, we are not going to make any progress on the settlements. The minute Netanyahu responded with his big speech at Bar Ilan, people again hurrahed and said, yes, Netanyahu has recognized the Palestinian state. Netanyahu said that, yes, they will have a state, and then went on to describe that state as not having control over its airspace, not having control over borders, not having an army, not having all those things that we think of as sovereignty. So again, you must be careful. Anybody who says Palestinian state must be investigated as to what they mean by those words, Palestinian state. That Palestinian state is no state if it doesn't have the fundamentals of sovereignty. Interestingly, Obama and Obama's team seemed to accept this. They were the first who lauded Netanyahu, considering what he said about the Palestinian state. And I think that if, as Tony Judd has mentioned, has written, if Obama accepts Netanyahu's response as a move forward, then he will be taken for a fool. Because this is not a move forward. This is Netanyahu playing with words and playing with the American administration. So we have to be very careful when we think or when we talk about a compromise, for instance, between what Obama is saying and what Netanyahu is saying. I think what I am saying is that Obama's original stance was strong but not strong enough. Any move forward is going to make America and Israel, in that sense, losers on the road to peace.